Thanks for tuning in. You're listening to Agriculture Today. This is National FFA Week across the land and obviously here in Kansas, saluting the renowned agricultural-based youth organization that is the FFA. And so it's our pleasure during this first segment to visit with the executive director of the Kansas FFA Foundation. She was appointed to that post here a few months back. It's our first time to speak with Beth Gaines in that official capacity. So before anything else, Beth, congratulations on this assignment.
Well, thank you, Eric. I appreciate that warm welcome. And when I took the position the 1st of June, which happened to be the first day of the state FFA convention, time since then has flown by.
Let's visit about the occasion here, National FFA Week. Of course, this is something of an institution unto itself. It's been observed for years upon years, but the purpose of this is to, in fact, highlight the great achievements and the great potential of the FFA.
Absolutely. National FFA Week is celebrated each week during the week of President's Day. So that week, and as we look to leadership from our founding fathers, it's quite appropriate that our FFA members tip their hat to that leadership and also celebrate what they bring to their communities and those opportunities in agriculture, education, and through our FFA. And we're pleased to be able to host a wide variety of opportunities and showcases events for our young people to really highlight those leadership skills and those career skills that they will need as they enter their professional careers and go out to be leaders in their community. It's really an opportunity to way to give back to our communities and let them know what's happening in our local chapters.
And in a minute here, we do want to visit about some of those activities that are ongoing this week in Kansas. But as far as the strength of the FFA in this state, if you look at the numbers, it's as healthy as ever, this organization, is it not?
It is as healthy as ever. We are proud to boast over 9,400 members in 199 chapters across Kansas. And we are pleased to welcome 15 new chapters to the family that have started this school year. So we're growing, and, it is a phenomenal time to be involved in agriculture education and the FFA in Kansas.
Undeniably. What's going on this week on behalf of and with regard to Kansas FFA and the members? And, of course, the foundation is deeply involved in this. That's why you're on the road today. What are some of the things that folks might be on the lookout for?
It's been kind of a whirlwind week for both myself and the state FFA officers. The state officer team actually started this week in Topeka and had the opportunity to visit with newly installed Lieutenant Governor Tracy Mann and got to share some of their experiences with him, as well as hear from his background. He was a former FFA member from the Quinter area, so they got to share some of those experiences and meet with him. They also had the opportunity to sit down with the Education Commissioner Watkins and share a little bit about the unique model and hear where his vision is going for education in Kansas and learn how FFA and agriculture education really plays a part in that opportunity for students to have a premier education experience in Kansas. That was just where it started.
Right.
So there are so many things that are happening in the chapters. The strength of the Kansas FFA Association truly is in that chapter. And so chapters across the state have planned special days, appreciation breakfasts. They've met with their school boards. Some of them have done their work auction, which is a fundraiser for the year, but have really got to highlight the diversity and the excellence in FFA across Kansas. So it's been a really busy week. I know that they've attended lots of functions, and so you've probably had the opportunity to see some blue jackets in the communities across the state this week.
And we hope our agricultural audience out there will take the opportunity as they encounter those young people adorning their blue jackets to acknowledge their achievements and recognize that this organization and agricultural education locally is in the right direction, Beth.
Absolutely, absolutely. We hope that they step up and participate in those. Another special event coming this weekend is the Western Farm Show in Kansas City. And the Western Farm Show has partnered with the FFA, both in Missouri and Kansas, to give back to those less fortunate individuals that may be facing some food insecurity. So we're having a food drive So if you're intending to go to the Western Farm Show in Kansas City, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, the 23rd to the 25th, make sure to throw in a couple extra canned goods and drop those in the box, obviously on the Kansas side of that, since there is a little healthy competition that goes along with that, and help our association help those less fortunate as well.
Very good. If you're headed to the Western Farm Show once again this weekend in Kansas City, be a part of that important undertaking as well. Now, the Kansas FFA Foundation is certainly immersed in a number of things in support of this organization beyond National FFA Week. So, Beth, you might share a few moments on what the foundation itself has on its agenda even beyond this week.
Absolutely. We have kicked off during FFA Week our $90 for the 90th convention campaign. So this year in May, when the Blue Jackets come to Manhattan, we will be celebrating our 90th gathering of our students in Kansas. So from the foundation's perspective, we all want to look back on what the association has given to us and how it's taken us through our careers and have an opportunity to give back and support future generations. So we launched the 90 for the 90th campaign in hopes that many former members, officers, and individuals that support the association will join in that partnership and really have a good opportunity to showcase excellence come May for our 90th convention here in Manhattan.
And if folks would like to find out more about that specific campaign, you feature it prominently on the foundation's website, do you not?
I do. Kansas FFA Foundation.org is where they can find that on our webpage as well as in social media. There's several mentions of it on our Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, whatever you choose to follow in social media. You can probably find the opportunity to participate in that campaign in those venues.
But that's just one campaign. There's obviously more on the foundation's plate ahead in 2018, isn't there?
There is. We also are, looking to develop our ag educators. With the number of new chapters that we have grown, the demand for good teachers in those programs is stronger than ever. And so we're offering and raising funds to have scholarships to have educators do professional development, send them to Case Institute. We also work to raise scholarships for students to go to the Washington Leadership Conference, which is a week-long event in the summer that they go to our nation's capital and really get immersed in personal development and personal leadership and how they can apply those skills to the local community. And that's an expensive trip for young people. It runs about $1,500. So we work really hard to offer scholarships to help offset some of that cost so that there isn't a financial barrier to participating in that event.
Never for a lack of initiatives in support of the Kansas FFA. The web address for the foundation is what?
KSFFAfoundation.org.
Very good. And folks, do check out that website. Beth, before we let you go, just an observation on your part as the executive director of the Kansas FFA Foundation. You look at the organization, you look at its growth, and the up-and-coming things that are going on within it. What excites you most about FFA? What's transpiring?
Well, we're continuing to push the bounds of excellence. I mean, we are far and away an all-encompassing organization, from young men, young women, those who are interested in production agriculture, to those who are interested in science and technology, or simply that leadership aspect, and they want to learn how to be effective leaders. The FFA has continued on our bedrock foundation, but has continued to grow and push the boundaries to make it all-encompassing and really a place that everyone can benefit from. And that's what's probably most invigorating to me when I see chapters being established at Southeast in Wichita, or the Renwick School District, or Mays, or the Kansas City metro area. That message is getting through that this is a program of excellence that students can benefit from. And that, to me, is an exciting development.
FFA is rolling strong here in Kansas for certain, nationally as well. And once more, if you'd like to learn more about methods of supporting the FFA, you can start by checking out that website, KSFFAfoundation.org. Very appropriate to follow up on that during this National FFA Week across the state and nation. Beth, we appreciate you stepping aside from obviously what is a hectic agenda this week, and we'll talk with you again soon. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Eric.
She is the executive director of the Kansas FFA Foundation. That's Beth Gaines, and she's been our guest on this first part of Agriculture Today. We'll stand aside now. When we come back, a key reminder for you crop irrigators and others who hold water use permits with the state of Kansas. There is a highly important deadline coming up soon that you definitely need to take note of. More on that next, here on the K-State Radio Network. Please keep it right here.
What is radon? Home exposure to radon gas is the leading cause of lung cancer death in the United States for non-smokers. In Kansas, 1 in 4 homes will test at or above the EPA action level. The Surgeon General recommends all homes be tested and fixed if necessary. Visit kansasradonprogram.org for more information. Test, fix, save a life. This message brought to you by the Kansas Radon Program, the Kansas Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
We're back now on this Agriculture Today. Well, with spring sort of knocking on the door, though we've a ways to go yet, there is annually an important deadline for those of you who hold water permits with the state of Kansas to adhere to. This is the annual requirement for reporting your previous year's water use, and that is coming up very soon. As a matter of fact, a week from today, March the 1st. So we brought by from the Kansas Department of Agriculture's Division of Water Resources, Sean Williams. He is an environmental scientist with the Division of Water Resources. And this is a key matter of business, although it is somewhat routine. It's an annual requirement, Sean. It's extraordinarily important that those with water permits follow the guidelines here, right?
Absolutely, Eric. Thanks for having me on.
You bet.
Yeah, we definitely want to get in and talk about it and get the word out a little bit to remind everybody, because this deadline coming up to get these water use reports in it's important for everybody to get all their data collected up and get that in prior to the deadline. I don't want to see anybody get penalized, and we've got a lot of data to get put together. It's getting to be about that time.
And just as a matter of record, your division handles a slew of reports, doesn't it, each year?
Yeah, quite a few. We have approximately 15 different types of water use reports. Irrigation, obviously, is the big one, municipal, stock water. But we have as many as 48,000 different points of diversion, wells or surface points where people, divert water. We mail out approximately 16,000 different water use forms for all those different types of uses. And so we got to get all that data back. And then once we get all the forms in, we also our division, we go through each of the lines of data to make sure there's as correct as possible and then get all that data entered into the system so it's there available for use.
For those not familiar with the reporting procedure, just a quick walkthrough of what the reporting requires. Obviously, it requires listing one's gallonage use for the previous year.
Yeah, and basically it's a breaking down of the actual water diverted, water used. So the big thing is going to be the meter readings. So you have your beginning and your ending, and then the metered quantity of water that was diverted. Some of the different types of uses are obviously going to be a little bit different. The irrigation, we're going to be looking at acres is important. So we have how much water was used and how much, different ground or how many acres was that water put onto, in addition to the type of crop. Crop codes, we'll break that down on the systems, the pivots or the drip systems. We kind of take all that information and put it in there so that data can be used and broken down. A lot of different agencies and groups use, the data that we collect. Some of the different, like municipals, are going to report a little bit differently. They'll have their actual water use, and they'll also might break down, are they purchasing water from other sources? Are they selling water to different people or businesses? And so they'll report a little bit on that. So some of the different reports have a little bit different things they're going to have to report on, but primarily what we're looking for is just the total water that's used.
And this is measured over the calendar year, or is it measured from March to March?
It's going to be the calendar year. So we start talking about the annual water use report, but it's actually the 17 data. So it's from January to December of 2017 is what we're collecting now. And we get those reports mailed out approximately the first working week of January, and everybody has till, like I said before, March 1st to get all that back into us.
And hopefully all users kept dutiful track of their usage over that past calendar year and then can report those numbers. A couple of things here, and this is not necessarily new, but it's available across the breadth of the uses, and that is if one is more inclined to report online, they can now do so for all uses.
Yes, that's correct. Our online system's been running for, let's say, about 5 years, and for the first couple, it was making sure everything was going to work right, and only a few of the types of uses could be done online. But now, I think as of last year, any of the different types of uses that someone has, they can report that online. And we're certainly trying to promote that and get the word out that people can get online and submit their report that way. Save yourself a little postage. Once you've completed it online, you're getting an automatic confirmation number and a confirmation email, so you know right then that we've received it. There's no worry about, did they get it in the mail? Was it gone someplace? And then they get a letter after that March 1st, hey, we don't have your water use report. Well, the online, definitely fixes that because you know for sure that it's in there.
So when an individual goes online, and we'll give the address in just a moment, they will see roughly the same form as they would in the mailing?
It's pretty similar. We based it off of it. It's going to look a little bit different the first time you get through there, but the stuff that they're asking for is going to be pretty much in the same way that we're asking for it on the written form. You'll log in and you'll have to put in an email address and a phone number, and then basically just verify your address is correct. And then when you say that's correct, it's going to bring up a list of all the different water rights. Somebody might have one water right, or they might have 15. You'll see that list, and they'll be able to go through individually and report all these different water rights, one at a time. And once you click on one water right, it's going to bring up and allow you to put in, is there acres that was irrigated on an irrigation, and then it's going to have your meter readings, and it'll ask it just slightly differently. That was the only, you see that the first time is when on paper you're going to write down, this is my beginning, this is my ending. When you're entering it in the computer, it's actually going to say, like, how does your digits read? You have 6 digits that move, and then is it acre foot or gallons? So you'll actually have to put that in there in a drop down, and it's pretty easy to get through, especially after that first time. A multiplication factor, gallons, a lot of your gallons readings could be times 10, times 100, or times 1,000, and you'll tell that computer what it is, and the computer will calculate it for you. So all you got to do is just put it straight in, hit calculate, and it's going to add up the math for you. Even if you have a rollover, if your meter rolled over during the year, there's a little check mark for rollover, and it'll calculate that right up.
So it's user-friendly.
It is pretty user-friendly.
And the address for doing so, it's pretty straightforward, right?
Straightforward. It's going to be www.kswaterusereport.org. And that's all one word there, and that'll get you right in. And you can also, if you can't remember that, you could search for the Kansas Department of Agriculture and do our main website under the Division of Water Resources. We have a link right there that'll shoot you straight over to it as well.
Very easy to get to, and we'll repeat that address. Also want to note that the mailings are still an option, and folks have received those already, so if they'd rather go the, put it this way, old-fashioned route, they can do so, but they need to have those postmarked no later than March the 1st, is that correct?
Postmarked by March 1st, that's correct. So, yeah, that's coming up in absolutely either way that somebody would like to do it. We just want to get them all back by that deadline. So they need to get that postmarked by March 1st, or if they're close enough to an office or a field office or even here in Manhattan, they could, hand deliver it if they wish. But, yeah, we need it in there by that March 1st.
Need to point out one more development here, and this has been in the making, but it sounds like it's going to be in effect for real here starting in 2018. The penalties for non-reporting to be fully enforced this year, you say. Explain, if you would, Sean.
Yes, that's correct. The legislature passed new statutes, I believe it was 2 years ago, 2016, increasing the penalties. And those penalties used to be a maximum of $250 if you did not have your report in. And how it was always enforced, March 1st deadline, we would only charge $50. And if you had it by June 1st, or we did not receive it by June 1st, then we would go to the max, which is $250. But they changed that about 2 years ago, but the regulations had not been changed to catch up. So we didn't enforce that because the regulations were different. But those did get changed this year. So now the maximum is going to be $1,000, and we'll still kind of follow the same guidelines, and we'll reduce it to the $250. So if we haven't received it between the March 1st and the June 1st, there will be a $250 penalty per water right file number. And if we haven't received it by that June 1st, that's going to go up to the max, which would be $1,000. Plus, it's also written in possible suspension authority. So it's possible we could receive an order, suspending water use until we receive that water use report into our office.
So a penalty per water right. If you have multiple rights, that could add up very quickly.
Absolutely, and we don't want to see anybody have to pay that if we just need to get that report in. So, yeah, if you have a card with 4 water rights, it could be $4,000, just for not getting it in by that June 1st.
And again, you've got that grace period from March the 1st through June the 1st, but even then the $250 is not a nominal fee. So
it's basically 4 times, what we enforced in the past.
Yeah.
And it just shows the legislature, and we believe it's important for this water use data to get in, and the fines are going to reflect that.
Sean, if anyone has any questions out there about the procedure or the penalties as they'll be enforced for non-reporting, any aspect of water use reporting, they can contact the division directly, right?
Absolutely. And our phone number up there is 785-564-6638, and that's on the website as well. It's also on the online water use reporting. That number's there. So if somebody has any questions at all or question about how to fill it out, they can give us a call. There's several of us in the office, and we're more than happy to anything we can do to help out or to walk somebody through the online system for the first time. We've been doing that a lot these last couple of weeks. The numbers are picking up. But yeah, any questions at all, somebody can give us a call, and we're there to help out.
Excellent. That phone number once more is 785-564-6638. The web address for online reporting, kswaterusereport.org. But in closing, Sean, it's a matter of business that simply needs to be squared away, and they've still a week to do so. So plenty of time, but not time to tarry by the same token.
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you for coming over and briefing us on all of this.
Thanks a lot for having me.
He's from the Division of Water Resources, Kansas Department of Agriculture, where he serves as an environmental scientist on that staff. Sean Williams, once again, a week from today, March the 1st, is the deadline for reporting 2017 water use through the permit system here in the state of Kansas. You're listening to Agriculture Today, and we'll return in a moment on this, the K-State Radio Network. For 25 years, K-State Research and Extension's Kansas Agricultural Mediation Services has been providing a no-cost, confidential place to call in and visit with an agricultural lawyer. Our experts are available to help you producers handle legal and financial issues. Explore your options and generate solutions. Call us at 800-321-3276 or visit us online. Kansas Agricultural Mediation Services. This Agriculture Today closes out with our weekly K-State Horticulture segment. This is for you home gardeners, be it vegetable production, be it fruit, the flower garden, what have you, about the value of taking a pre-season soil test. And joining us once more from his office in Olathe is Dennis Patton. He's the horticultural agent for Johnson County Research and Extension in Northeast Kansas. And Dennis, you're a strong advocate for soil testing for this purpose, right?
I am. And actually, Johnson County, I think, might lead the state in the number of soil tests we sent in last year. Our office processed just a little over 1,500 soil samples. About 1,000 of those were horticulture. So, yeah, I do soil tests in my sleep, is what my wife says.
And what we want to get into today is what a soil test will and won't tell an individual about the area in which they're growing their vegetables, say, or the flower border and what nutrient needs might exist. But what will the basic soil test offer in the way of information?
Great, because I think that's a good way to distinguish it. What can a soil test help you with and what it cannot help you with? So let's start with the positives. To me, a soil test, what we call our basic test through Kansas State University, gets you the pH level and the phosphorus and potassium. And I think for most home gardeners, that's really the most important information we need. And here's the reason why. First of all, in many parts of the state of Kansas, our pH is high, and pH regulates the availability of nutrients to the plant. So if it's off one way or another, we can adjust it to put it more in an optimum range to get full benefit of all those nutrients held in our nutritious clay soils. And then the other thing our base soil test gives us is phosphorus and potassium, because those nutrients are also potentially some in our Kansas soils that are there in sufficient quantities. So what it does is tell us when we go to the store to buy fertilizer, do we need a fertilizer with phosphorus and potassium or just nitrogen-only fertilizers? In many cases, all we really need in our Kansas soils and gardens is nitrogen. Phosphorus and potassium, what we call immobile elements, they kind of stay put in the soil, where nitrogen is used up in greater quantities and leaches out of the root zone. So we need to continually add more nitrogen to our gardens to get good production.
But once more, as one's soil testing here, the purpose may not be so much to cover what's not there, but to avoid overloading the soil with what is already there in the form of potassium or phosphorus.
That is actually correct, and that to me is one of the best benefits of the soil test. It tells us what not to add, so we don't overload. And here in Johnson County, and actually many parts of the state, even rural areas, we have problems with phosphorus getting into our water system, nitrogen even. And so if we can limit those applications to our lawns, gardens, then we reduce that potential of loading the soil or potentially harming our water if we get some erosion of soil or runoff from our property. So to me, it's just a great way to build the base fertility program, whether it's your lawn, your tomatoes, your apple tree, or a marigold in your backyard.
Alternately, what a soil test does not tell you, that's as important as what it does. And you encounter these questions all the time, Dennis.
Right. Soil tests are strictly for fertility. What they won't tell us if there's some harsh chemical in the soil. We get a lot of people that are thinking, oh my goodness, something was spilled there, so I want to test, if there's residue of gas, those type of things. A routine soil test won't do that. We can run what's called a heavy metals test through K-State that will get at some of those potential pollutants, but it doesn't really tell us whether the soil is contaminated. And it also doesn't tell us if there's more structurally things wrong with our soil. Our Kansas weather is the old feast or famine. Either it rains or it doesn't rain. And so when it rains, if we have soils that are poorly drained, it's not going to tell us we have drainage issues, those type of things. Or it doesn't tell us if there are disease issues with the plant going on. It really is just strictly for fertility. But hopefully your extension office will be able to help you diagnose maybe some other underlying problems that are not soil-related, but we can help correct either through cultural practices, soil improvements, or other things to get you onto the roads to success.
All right, the very basics here then of taking an adequate soil sample for the testing we're talking of here. You might walk us through that.
Okay, great. What the university needs is about 1.5 to 2 cups of actual soil to run the test, because your local county office is going to mail that to the lab at Manhattan. So what you're going to do is get these 2 cups of soil, but what you want to do is take small random samples from around your property. So if it's a vegetable garden, maybe 4 to 10 samples, 4 to 6 inches deep, depending on how large the garden is. Mix all those samples together in a clean bucket, and then get your 1.5 to 2 cups of soil from there. So you're getting more of a random sample, not just one particular location. Kind of the same thing on the lawn. The larger the area you're testing, the more small samples you pull. The smaller the area, the less. But we only really need that 1.5 to 2 cups brought into your local office to be sent on into Manhattan.
And then that sample is, as you say, delivered to the soil testing laboratory here at K-State. There's a brief turnaround time, and the results will come forth from that. And then the gardener, the homeowner, can take it from there and figure out what management steps they need to be carrying out, Dennis.
That is correct. What I try to give people is actual, rates of fertilizers, analysis of fertilizers to apply, and then, of course, the timing that go on for the various crops. So hopefully someone can pick up that fertilizer at their local, co-op, nursery, garden center, discount center, and be able to know exactly what they need to apply, when they need to apply it, because, we're all about success. Who doesn't want a better tomato crop? Who doesn't want more flowers? Who doesn't want a greener lawn? And a good fertility program is all part of that.
Once more, consult your local extension office for further guidance on submitting a soil sample from your gardening areas for analysis, and get that process rolling as soon as you can, because gardening season will be upon us quicker than we think, Dennis.
Next week's already March, and
Yep.
you know what? Potatoes go on the ground March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. So it's just around the corner. One other thing I might mention, Eric,
Sure.
is many offices do have a small fee for soil testing. So it's not always free in county offices, but it's probably a $10 to $15 cost at most in most offices in the state of Kansas.
When you think of what you spend on seed, on transplants, and so forth, it's a nominal investment in assuring better productivity from your gardening.
And it's not something you have to do every year. Every 3 to 5 years is probably all you need to do and just monitor changes.
Very well. Hey, Dennis, we appreciate the comments, and we will touch base again later. Thank you.
Sounds great, Eric. Take care.
He's the Johnson County Extension Horticultural Agent is Dennis Patton. Once more on pre-gardening season soil testing procedures. That's this week's K-State Horticulture segment, and our time's away for today. Thanks for listening in. Eric Atkinson here. This has been Agriculture Today over the K-State Radio Network.